is going to watch on the.
Okay, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good morning to the Torah class of Parshas Ki Tisa. Portion is extremely a powerful parsha in general, and we started this class on page 97. And in general, this parsha, deals with the golden calf. That's the highlight of the parsha. The majority of the parsha is the story of the golden calf. It's such a powerful story, the story of the golden calf. And as God himself says in the parsha, that everything that happens in life, troubles of Jews throughout history, is connected to this story, the story of the golden calf. And we can see the power of the story as we go to the Haftarah of this week's parsha. Generally, the Haftarah that we read every Shabbos was established in a time when the Jews were prohibited to read the Torah. So the authorities, the Romans, who prohibited the Jews from reading the Torah. So the sages came up with a Haftarah, reading of a Haftarah, which in essence they wanted to find someplace in the Tanakh that would have some kind of a connection to the Torah reading. So sometimes it's easy to see the connection between the Haftarah and the Torah reading. Sometimes it's more difficult, and you have to go in deeply into the Haftarah to find the connection, the similarities or the continuation between the Torah reading and the Haftarah. We have a fascinating story in this week's Haftarah. It's a very famous story, and it's a place until today that you can go. When you go to Israel, you go to Har Carmel, Mount Carmel it's in Netanya. No, it's in Haifa. I'm sorry, Haifa, right? Haifa. I was there. It's in Haifa, and there's the famous cave which Eliyahu Navu was in. Whatever, I don't know. Whatever. It's a great tourist attraction, that's for sure. So, but this story is in this week's Haftarah, the story. And self-understood, you'll read the story. We're going to read quickly the story. It's in page 97 of your book, text 1a and text 2. Text 2 is more important to us, but we'll just read quickly the story as follows. So Elijah drew near to all the people. So Elijah was in a very troubled time in the Jewish nation. It was in the time of a very wicked king and queen, Achav and Izabel. They were the king and queen of the Jewish people. They were Jews. And they brought upon the Jews great tzaddis. They forced the Jews to sin. They killed every prophet that they can get a hand over on, every Jewish great man they killed. And they had to run away. Elijah himself had to run away, hide for many years to under this terrible tyranny. And they put in a bunch of idol-worshiping Jewish prophets. It was not a joke. And this was a terrible time for Yidden. And that's why now you understand why Elijah was then the prophet. Elijah himself was a very powerful and non-bending individual, because he was in a very extremely rough history, a rough time with a king who was extremely an evil king, Achav. So what happened was, the story is told that Elijah comes to Achav and says, okay, let us create a challenge. You're going to bring all your prophets. And Elijah brought 350 prophets, Jewish prophets, that were prophesizing idol worship. Can you imagine? It's totally crazy. And they were prophesizing. That time there was the Baal. That was the idol worship of the time, the Baal, and they got the Jews to serve the Baal. It was 300 against one guy, Elijah. This guy went against 350 guys. This debate, famous debate between Jews. So Elijah drew all the people and he said to them, until when are you hopping on two ideas? If to the Lord, go after him. If to the Baal, go after him. Stop dancing. Don't act like Jews and go to church. It doesn't work. I don't call the Baal.
Was it
A cow, whatever, like they made the golden calf. It was an idol. They used to worship idols. And the people did not answer him a word. They didn't. Elijah spoke to the people. I have remained a prophet to God by myself. And the prophets of Baal are 450. I said 350, a mistake. 450. So therefore, I'm putting up a challenge. 450 of your prophets, these are Jewish prophets officially, that are prophesying that now God says we should worship the Baal. It's like a Jews for Jesus situation. No. Right? They want to dance on 2 weddings. We believe in God, but Baal fits in and how they figured it out, like these guys figure it out too. And Elijah's right. So I'm one against 450 because the rest of them were in hiding. Just remember, the rest of them were in hiding. The Pasha were in hiding. From their own king and queen for the Jews. Because he was a powerful man. He was like, very extremely powerful individual. He was well protected. He was a powerful guy. You couldn't play around with him. He was a powerful man. He was a powerful guy. So, and let them give us, see something like this. Let them give us 2 bulls, and let them choose 1 bull for themselves and cut it up and place it on the wood. But the fire shall not, but fire they shall not put. And I will prepare 1 bull, I'll put it on the wood, and fire I will not place. So we're going to create this challenge. You're going to take a bull, I'll take a bull, we'll make a sacrifice. And you will call the name of your deity, call the Baal. And I will call the name of God, and it will be the God that will answer the fire. He is God. And all the people said, wow, okay, this thing is good. Now the people answered, now we're going to show who's God. So Elijah said to the prophet about, choose for yourself 1 bull and prepare it first, since you are a majority. And call in the name of your deity, and the fire place not. That's because the fire has come down from heaven. They took the bull, they gave them, and they prepared it, and they called the name of the Baal from the morning until the noon, saying, "Oh Baal, answer us." But their voice was no answer, and they hopped on the altar that they made. It was at noon, and Elijah scoffed at them, saying, "No, call a loud voice. God, perhaps he's talking, or he's pursuing enemies, or he has a journey, perhaps he's sleeping, he needs to be awakened." And they called a loud voice, and they gashed themselves as their customs with swords and lances until blood gushed from them. And an afternoon passed, and to the prophecy until the time of the sacrifice of the evening offering, and there was no voice, there was no answer, and no one was listening. So that was it. Now we come to the end of the story, right? So Elijah said to the people, "Come near," this text number 1b, "come near to me." And all the people came near to him, and he prepared the torn down altar of God. Elijah took 12 stones, corresponding to the numbers of tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of God said, "Selling of Israel shall be your name." He built the stones into an altar in the name of God. He made a trench as great as would contain 2 saw of seed around it. He created a water trench, filled it with water. He wanted to show them that the fire will still come down, right? And he arranged the wood. He cut the bull and placed it upon the wood. And he said, "Fill 4 pitchers of water and pour them on the burnt offering on the wood." And he said, "Repeat it. Take another four pitchers of water." And then he said, "Do it a 3rd time." And they filled it up with water. It was soaking, drenching wet. The water went around the altar and also trench filled with water. And in the evening, the sacrifice was offered that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, today let it be known that you are God of Israel and that I am your servant and that your word I have done all these things. Because he did something which is against the Torah. Made a sacrifice out of the temple. Then the temple was standing. Time of the first base of Mikdash, first temple. You're right, exactly. It's written exactly which time. But the time of this first temple, in the middle of that era. Answer me, O Lord, answer me, as these people shall know that you are the Lord their God, and you have turned their hearts backwards. And you, fire of God fell and consumed the burnt offering, the wood and the stones and the earth, the water, and everything was licked up. It was totally gone. And all the people saw and fell on their faces and said, the Lord is God, the Lord is God. That's the story. Amazing, amazing story. Amazing story.
I assume the box will never at night.
No. Basically wasted their time. That's the story. So Leo, Baruch Hashem, won the contest, right? That was the story. That's the Torah. You're going to read the Mitzvah and Shul on Shabbos. And self-understood is connected to the portion. You can see the connection. They made a golden calf, they were worshiping an idol, and Moshe Rabbeinu, they had to prove they were wrong, and the Yidden did tshuva. So to the Yidden did ultimately tshuva. They expressed the Lord is our God, but they realized their mistake. We're going to go to a medrash. This sikha is based on a medrash. Yeah.
Did Elijah talk to Hashem?
Yeah, Elijah never went any. Elijah never did. No, Elijah never did anything without he was a prophet. He never did anything without.
Okay.
Without
God would respond.
100%. Okay. So the Rebbe brings down a medrash, a very beautiful medrash, that these two bulls, there was a bull that was given to sacrifice to God. There was a bull that was given to sacrifice to the idol. You brought these two bulls. So look at the medrash. When Elijah said to the worshippers of the Baal, choose for yourself one bull and prepare it, for since you are the majority, 450 prophets of the Baal and 450 prophets of Asherah gathered to take a bull, but they were unable to move it from its place. Medrash doesn't say that in the Haftarah. This is the Medrash, the story behind the story. Why? Because the bull said, I don't want to be part of this whole situation. What do you want from me, right? I need to do this, right? What did Elijah do? He said to the prophets, choose two twin bulls who pasture together. You know what? The bull doesn't move, so we're going to have to do like this. We're going to get two bulls. We're going to make a lottery. We're going to cast a lot on them. One for God and one for the Baal. So the prophets of the Baal did so, choosing one bull for themselves and one for Elijah. Elijah's bull followed Elijah readily. But the prophet's bull and the Asherah were unable to move. And that's not fair. Why was I chosen to go to the Baal? My friend over here, we've been pasturing for the last couple of years. We've been having a good life. We're buddies. He's going to serve you, and I'm going to serve the Baal. This is not fair. So Elijah told him, well, listen, you got to go. You got to go with them. He responded, my fellow bull and I came from one womb. They were brothers from the same cow. And I pastured in the same fields. Now he goes to God's sacrifice, and God's name will be sanctified through him. Why must I be sacrificed to the Baal and anger my creator? Elijah responded, bull, bull. Don't worry. Go with them. So they'll not have the excuse for why the sacrifice was not accepted. Just as God's name will be sanctified by God accepting your fellow bull from me, his name will be sanctified by the Baal not accepting you as a sacrifice. You are going to sanctify God's name by it's not happening, while this bull will sanctify God's name by it's happening. The bull responded, if this is your advice, then I swear that I will not move from here until you give me over to them. You're going to have to give me, you're going to have to lead me to them. Therefore, Elijah handed the bull. That's why it says he handed them the bull to the prophets. He actually gave them the bull.
Sounds like a lot of.
Because the bull did not want to move. Medrash, right? Now, self-understood, it's a nice story, nice medrash. It doesn't mean the bull, it doesn't mean self-understood, it means that the angel of the bull, right? Not the bull. The bull, the two bulls have no, can't speak. It means that the spirit of the bull, right? The godly energy of this bull said, why I'm the godly energy of this bull? Why am I given to do this thing? And his godly energy is given to do that thing. So Elijah answered him, it doesn't make a difference since you are an energy of God. There are two ways to serve God. This sikha is a very powerful sikha. It's a very deep sikha of the Rebbe, a very deep concept of the Rebbe, where the Rebbe talks about the concept of sin. Concept of sin, which is something we all fall into, which is the story of the golden calf, the first major sin of the Jewish people after Matan Torah. Because everything in the Torah was given to us as a hayra, as a way of life, and it talks to each and every one of us. So the story of the golden calf, the first sin that the Jewish people did, major sin that the Jewish people did coming out of after Matan Torah, 40 days out of Matan Torah, needs to have a very strong lesson to each and every single one of us. We need to come out of this positive. Like the Jewish people came out of it positive after Matan Torah, we need to come out of sin in a positive way. Because God would not thus create sin that people should thus fall and never come out of that situation. In essence, sin was created by God. The capacity and the capability of sin was created by the Eibishter, this concept of sin. The Eibishter didn't create the concept of sin to make people fall and destroy people, because that would be going against his own laws. The Torah prohibits a person to putting a stumbling block in front of a blind person. It's one of the 365 negative commandments. You shall not put a stumbling block for somebody that's blind, right? Why would God create a sin to put a stumbling block if he knows that we are weak and we have the capacity and the capability and we will sin? The Eibishter would never do that. It's against the law. It's against his own law. The Eibishter, in essence, knows, he hopes you don't sin. But he put in the situation that even if, God forbid, one does sin, there's got to be a positive outcome. There's got to be actually an outcome that is greater than before the sin. Because if not, even to come back to the level that we are before the sin, then there's no purpose in sin. And God would not do that. It would be almost like an evil thing to do, to create sin, to bring down people, or even to bring them back to the same level they were before. That would be a negative thing to do. You have to understand the concept of sin in general and the capacity of sin. Why would God create sin? What would he do with sin? We would actually do tshuva, and our tshuva would bring us to a place even greater than before we did the tshuva. Okay, it's a very powerful lesson. It's a very powerful concept. And really, that's what we learn from the golden calf. Not that we should sin, but that when we fall, what we should do with that. In an aspect, if we do fall, if we do sin, whatever the sin might be, what do we do with that situation? Yeah.
I just think it has this word, Ashera, is that another deity?
What?
It's,
Yeah, another deity. It's two different kinds. So that actually, it seems like, I don't remember the Haftarah, I didn't go read it. Seems like there was 450 and 450. It was 900 guys there. 900 to 450 from the Baal and 450 from the Asherah. The Baal was an animal. The Asherah was a deity of a tree.
Can you repeat the question, please?
He says, "What's Asherah?" Going to the words of the Haftarah. So two different deities. They were prophets to the Baal, 450 prophets to the Baal, and 450 prophets to the Asherah. I believe the Baal was an animal. They worshipped an animal. The Asherah was they worshipped a tree. Okay. They worshipped wood.
Evil, we won't understand good.
No, that's not the no. No. That's no. That's not the reason. The reason, as I said, it's a very deep thing in the aspect that you have to reach a higher plateau. You take 2 steps back to go 4 steps forward. That's the purpose of it. Not that I don't know evil, if I don't go good, because I'll always know. There's always, if good is better, not better. So there's always, you can learn better from good. What do I need to learn good from evil? As a purpose. If not, then God is just a negative entity. You know, if I just want to do evil for the sake of evil, then I'm a bad person. Okay? I'm a bad person. Finished. I have no goodness in me. You cannot say that I'm God, okay? It doesn't make any sense. God is chesed. It's the opposite of everything that we understand about God. And therefore, God, in essence, put the Jews in this challenge. Not that they should falter, but if they falter, they would actually come greater. That's through tshuva. That's the power of tshuva. So actually, tshuva was created before the sin. Tshuva was created before the sin. Tshuva is a mitzvah in the Torah that's there before even sin. Tshuva, there's no sin.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, so.
So there's something about this that somehow doesn't feel like it's adding up for me, even though I love what you're saying. So the thing is that it almost sounds a little bit like sin is the way to, like, choose the way to go. And yes, okay, we can't help it. I don't even know if I can articulate this, but
I know.
it's almost like there's a little
I know your
bit of a
question.
fine line
I
here,
know your
you
question. It's a
like-
fine line, correct. It's a very fine line. But again, the concept, if you learn Chassidus, if you learn even Tanya these days, you'll understand that we all have a nefesh habahamis. That already is a negative concept within us. I'm not talking about sin. That we have an animalistic soul is what God gives us. Why would God give us an animalistic soul? Forget about sinning.
So
that I have an animalistic soul is already a negative. That I have desires in life, I'm not going to, is already a negative. Why would God do that? That's a stumbling block before a person that might fall in his desires. Why would God do that? God wants to make us greater. He does. The Tzaddikim have a very flat existence. The Eibishter wants to make us greater. And that's why he gave us a nefesh habahamis. That's why he gave us that animalistic soul. So we would actually become greater. We wouldn't live a life that is consistent and flat. We would actually live a life that will might the thought of the desire of evil puts us in a dip that will create a higher existence. Nobody should do sin. Not the class. Nobody should do sin. Even the thought of sin is already a negative thing because a tzaddik doesn't even have a desire, a thought of sin because he looks at the world totally different. You know, this is a little different than usually the class of positively biased, to look at everything positive. The tzaddik, he can look at everything positive. Don't. Sinners, we just don't look at everything positive. Because we're human beings. And we're not such capability of looking at everything through a different magnifying glass of positivity. We feel negativity, we see negativity, we live with negativity. And the Eibishter put us in that situation so we would be able to overcome that negativity. So I can either be in denial, and that's really a tzaddik. A tzaddik is in denial. In the class over here, it's very deep. The tzaddik, he's in denial. The world's irrelevant to him. It's like he's in the world, and the world is irrelevant. That's denial. Because the world is relevant. But to the tzaddik, he's in denial. The Beinoni, to the middleman, to a regular person, he lives in the real world. The world is negative. And not only the world is negative, he is negative. Why does God want that? Should have made us all tzaddikim. We would all be in denial. World, right? We'll all look at the world as nothing. We'll all live in Disneyland, and it'll be a wonderful existence. Right? No, it will be for free. In denial. So let's do the sikha. It's a deep sikha. This is the point that everyone's a very deep concept, and that's why this parsha is important and Haftarah is important to realize that the Eibishter, not that the Jewish people, because he put it in the capacity, even Moshe Rabbeinu says to God, you gave them too much gold. Look at Rashi in this week's parsha. Moshe Rabbeinu turns to God and says, what do you expect? Gave them all this gold. You enticed them. You put it there. You gave them this capacity. You cannot give a person the capacity and then expect him to be pure. You can't take a kid to the candy store, expect him to control himself and not even want the candy. Ask, can I have some candy? What do I come to the candy store for? Candy store to look at it? But tzaddik would walk in the candy store and say, no interest. I have no interest. We're not like that. We like candy. And keep me out of the candy store.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yeah. Well, you should learn the sikha a little bit, and then
Okay.
maybe we'll answer the questions, because let's go on. It is known that every person, every animal, this is text number 3. This is the Radbaz. He says on this story, he says, it's known that every person, every animal, every tree, and every stalk of grain has a life-giving spiritual energy. And the person ministering angel in heaven. The bull, it's just explaining the story. It's not that the bull had a conversation with Elijah. The bull ministering angel went to Elijah and said, we are 2 bulls that came from the same womb and ate the same throw. Why give the prophet of Baal and Asherah the right to choose one to serve his creator and one to anger his creator? So it was the ministering angels What proves this interpretation of the Medrash, the fact that the bull speaking understands that his fellow will be sanctified in God's name, and the fact that he understands Elijah's argument of his own potential to sanctify God's name. A bull does not understand these concepts, okay, people? So this was the angels, their energy that they gives them their existence. Clearly, it's the bulls ministering angels speaking. Okay, so then I want to give to think that Elijah was having a conversation with bulls. He was having but the truth is, the Medrash really wants to teach us a very deep concept, these two bulls. And what is the story behind the story? What is the meaning of these two bulls? What is the meaning of this conversation? Why we learned this Medrash? Why we need this Medrash to tell us that these two bulls had this conversation? Because it really to teach us a very important thing. So let's look at the story of the goat. So therefore, to understand really the story of the bulls, the Haftarah, you need to go to the story of the golden calf. This is the Parsha of the week. The first sin the Jews did. It's really mind-boggling, the sin of the golden calf. It's really, truthfully, if you understand the situation of the Jews at Matan Torah and the revelation of godliness in Matan Torah, it just doesn't make sense. The story breaks the mind. And therefore, there's so much written on the story of the golden calf because everybody's trying to figure out how is it possible for the Jews to go from so high to so low so quickly. Almost hard to comprehend. What? Ki Tisa, when you will uplift, when you count the Jewish people. Okay. So the Talmud, the Gemara says, the Gemara itself is like wondering. Talmud in Avodah Zarah, this is your text 4a, page 104. The Jewish people at the time were not really capable of committing that deed. It was not possible. It doesn't make sense. Namely, the sin of the golden calf. As the verse states, who would give that they had such a heart as to always to fear me and keep my commandments, that it might be good for them and their children forever? Who saw such miracles? Which generation? No generation in history. Moshe Rabbeinu says, is there a generation like this generation is standing right with me? Is there such a generation in history that saw 10 plagues, destruction of Mitzrayim, the crossing of the sea? Matan Torah, there's no such generation. There's never been such a generation. It's a right. This is like a super generation. This is like the super generation. There's like this generation. This is every generation is going to say, wow, I wish I wasn't that generation. Like, this was amazing. Like, can you imagine being a generation where you constantly see miracles upon miracles upon miracles crossing the seas? You got the man, the water. I mean, this is crazy. This is like super, right?
Cloud from above, your presence.
It's impossible. So you can understand all the Jews throughout history sinning. How is it possible this generation is sin? It doesn't make sense. It's like it'll be impossible. If every generation saw such kind of thing, they would never sin. Almost, so the question still stands. It's even the Gemara says, how do you do that? How do you understand the story? The Gemara answers, why then did they commit the sin? That is so that when Jewish people sin as a whole, we can tell them, look at that community who sinned with the golden calf. The Bible says that in essence, And look how Rashi translates the meaning of the Gemara. Rashi on that Gemara says, this is a strong Rashi, and we really have to understand what that means. The sin was mandated by God. That's it. God, He created this thing. He orchestrated this thing to give the people the opportunity to do tshuva. The Eibishter, say the word, he wanted them to sin. Stumbling back in front of them. It says for hundreds of years, thousands of years, the Jewish people had a desire to worship cows. Laugh. The great sages of the time got together and fasted 40 days to get this desire out of the system. But so right now, you laugh and you say, how can you worship a cow? Are you serious? Everybody had a little cow in his foyer, and they would bow. Like, how do you do that? How do you do that? But it was a desire. Comprehend it or not, there was a taiva to do that. They wish they gave a taiva. This is not a joke.
Well, your name.
If my neighbor was bowing down to a calf, if I would bow down to a calf, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. Why would I bow? I said the egel was a calf that was moving. The Gemara says it was moving and it was eating. Okay, now I see a miracle. This calf, this golden calf, is moving around and it's eating. Okay, maybe. Then I can see. I can fall maybe into the situation. But because I see a miracle, so it impresses upon him.
What does it eat?
It was eating. No, it was eating grass. Okay, now we're talking. But Stam, I'm going to go bow down to a golden calf because you decided that we should bow down to a golden calf. I mean, it's ridiculous. But it was a type. The Gemara is a famous story of Yanai, the Tanner of Hunu, who's talking about Menashe, that he made the people, they also worshipped idols. He said, if you were in this generation, you would pick up your garment, you would run to the Avodah Zarah. You can't imagine the desire to worship idols. You can't imagine at that time the desire. It's hard for us to imagine. A long way, baby, as they say. We've come a long way. Okay? So this was a strict struggle. Wait, let me finish. Let me try to finish. I'm not going to let you go. Don't worry, I'm not going to forget you. So he right away brings down text number 5, which is important it's always important to say that. The class is not to sin, guys. The point of the class. Okay? The point of the class is, if somebody says, I'm going to sin and do tshuva, I'll sin and do tshuva, then the Gemara says, we're not going to, God's not going to give you the opportunity to do tshuva. And that's a problem. By most of us, we ultimately say, well, don't worry, we'll fix it tomorrow. We'll fix it tomorrow. We'll fix it tomorrow. When we get here, when we'll be in Israel, when we get older, when we're on a deathbed, we'll fix everything later. We're fixing everything later. That's why we never do tshuva, because we're fixing everything later. It's not to feel, as the Talmud says, he's dying today. So you can imagine if you had a message from God, you have 24 hours. Okay, what are you going to do? We'll all do tshuva. I don't think we'll hit the golf course. We'll hit the show. We'll try to fix everything ASAP because we have 24 hours. But we don't do that. And that's the problem. We continue saying that we're going to do tshuva. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it in a week. We'll do it in a year. We'll do it when we're inspired. Whatever, all kind of excuses. So that's not the point. The point is that the Eibishter says, I put it in the system to sin so that you get up and do something about it. I put the stuff there. I created a challenge I chas v'sholom didn't create the challenge that you would fall into the challenge. I hope that you would overcome it. But if you do fall in it, I have put it into the system that you should do tshuva, and I hope that you do tshuva ASAP. Because the tshuva is going to bring you to even a higher level. Now, I'm telling you that the concept of sin is not that I sin to do tshuva. If you learn chassidus, the concept of sin, even to have the capability of sin, is already needs to have tshuva. That I have a yetzer hara means I need tshuva. I need constant tshuva. That I never get rid of my animalistic soul means I need to constantly do tshuva. And that's why you learn Tanya about a middleman needs to constantly struggle. If you give up the struggle, then you have given in. Then I've given into my yetzer hara. I've given into my evil inclination. Yes, Jenny. Question?
Okay, so I just want to ask you, I don't know if this is something, I don't know. Anyway, what I learned was that the Jews didn't really actually sin with the golden calf, but they stood back and allowed it to happen. But it was the Arab Rab, the mixed multitude, were the ones that were really sort of instigating it, doing it, and the Jews got punished because they kind of stood back and let it happen. Is that not a...
That even emphasizes even more this situation. You don't have to sin by doing something. That they allowed it is already a sin. That I allow myself, I give space to my nefesh Bahamas, I'm sinning. Did I sin anything? No. Did I do an aveda? No. But I'm allowing my nefesh Bahamas, I'm allowing my evil to live. That's a sin. You
Because I understood that they did that because they wanted to see what would happen. So
again, all good excuses. They should have stopped it ASAP. That's why even Aaron also, it's called the calf that Aaron did. So Aaron was also not let off the hook. Because Aaron allowed it, and he had l'shem shamayim, he had the right thoughts, and he said, oh, tomorrow, he should have stopped it. That's it. And that's why it's called the calf that Aaron did. He's not let off the hook in this situation. Everybody allowed it to continue. And it's the same thing that I allow my yetzer hara to continue. I need to stop it. I need to fight it. I need to change it. And that's what it needs to be done. And that's the lesson of the golden calf. That there's a golden calf that's always going to be in our midst. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be like the Eder Rav. I'm not going to do it, but I'm allowing it to exist. That's because I'm not a tzaddik. What does Moshe Rabbeinu does when he comes down the mountain? He doesn't say, okay, tomorrow we'll get rid of the golden calf. We'll have a conversation. We'll have a meeting. You look at the Torah, he walks down the mountain, he breaks the tablets, and he takes this calf and he destroys it. That's the end of the story. That's it. He eradicates the calf. He doesn't say, let's have a conversation. What are you doing? Let's talk about it. If he destroys the golden calf, then he takes care of business. But the first thing he does, he gets rid of the golden calf. And that's the first thing that he needed to do. That's the first thing that he should have done. Get rid of the golden calf.
How did you do that? You throw it back.
The fire. With a pasuk. Exactly. Says he took it, he threw in the fire. It self-destructed. He took the offer and
but the fire created the golden calf.
Right. He threw it back the same thing.
So why would the sorcery happen?
Because Moshe Rabbeinu was there, he didn't allow it. End of story. So Moshe Rabbeinu didn't allow anything to go on anyway. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu was angry with Aaron. You should have thus not allowed it. I understand they killed Chor and they're complaining. All good excuses. All good excuses. And you didn't meant l'shem shamayim, you're going to do it tomorrow. We're going to prove. Meanwhile, you allowed it to happen. And that's it. So that's what we need the Moshe Rabbeinu. So we always need the Moshe Rabbeinu in our lives. We need the tzaddik. We're going to learn over here the two things, the tzaddik in our lives and the Beinani. The two ways of looking at things. There's no evil. To him, there's no evil. You need if there's evil, you got to get out of it. You got to get it. So either he's in denial or you got to get rid of it. And the Beinani is a different way of looking at it. Yeah, we'll soon see.
Rabbi, all right, so I have a question. I mean, because you're talking about tzaddikim a lot. So I don't even know how to phrase this. So is it tzaddik born a
Yeah.
tzaddik?
Yes.
Does that mean that he was he ever a Beinoni
No, he could have been.
and
Could have been.
and evolved?
Tzaddik has to be given the Alter Rebbe said that tzaddik needs to be given the capacity to be a tzaddik. Now God can change, as you learn Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says God can change. You can push the Eibush to change your capacity of your soul, but that's very difficult to do. Tzaddik is usually had the capacity to be a tzaddik. Doesn't mean that he did. That doesn't mean that tzaddik uses capacity to be a tzaddik. You can have a lot of people that didn't use the capacity. They stayed lower than their capacity. But a tzaddik needs to be given the capacity.
So my next question is, why would God pick certain people to be tzaddikim and others? I mean, what are the qualifications? Let me rephrase that. What are the qualifications that one becomes a tzaddik?
Let's learn the sikha. So let's learn the sikha. So let's learn it. Let's learn it. So let's learn. You'll see. You'll see. Your answer is going to be answered.
Okay.
Okay. Your question is going to be answered. So the deeper dimension.
Doesn't everybody have both in them?
Yeah, I said so. I just said that. I said everybody has both. We're tzaddik and we're Beinoni. We actually have three levels. There's certain things that we're tzaddik, and there's certain things we're Beinoni, and there's certain things that are wicked. So we have a tzaddik in us. We do have certain capacities of a tzaddik. We don't, with a tzaddik, when you tell a person that is a tzaddik, that means he's completely a tzaddik in all his dimensions. That's a tzaddik. He's completely tzaddik in his body and soul.
Could you define
Let's learn the sikha. Let's learn the sikha, people. Because actually the Alter Rebbe in Tanya says, don't want to be a tzaddik. If you're not a tzaddik, don't want to be a tzaddik. Want to be a Beinoni. That's our service, not to be a tzaddik. Our service is try to be a Beinoni, which is unbelievable thing. Because actually it's a greater service. So we'll see. So let's learn it. So there's a very few tzaddikim in the world. Only 36 tzaddikim in the world. So it's right 36, 72. There's very few tzaddikim in the world. Most of us are halavai Beinoni. Let us try to be a Beinoni. Let's look at text number 6. The Rebbe, the Babich Rebbe, this is the Sikh of the Rebbe. The deeper dimension of the concept of opportunity to do tshuva. This is a very deep concept that we have the opportunity. The Eibishter gave us an opportunity that when we sin to do tshuva. It's just not that the later generation of penitents and sinners, rather that Jews of the time will be able to reach the greater heights of tshuva. And it's not about the future, it's about the present. The power of tshuva is not that, the future will be good, but actually what happens when a person does tshuva today. Tshuva is not something a person can do as an initial choice. Just the opposite, as the Mishnah says. One who says, oh, I will sin with the intent to do tshuva is not given opportunity to do tshuva. It's only after one God protect us fallen and committed a sin that they can ought to do tshuva. Tshuva was created because of a sin, because of the capacity of sin. If we would not sin, there would no need for tshuva. Tshuva is the capacity that I have, the capability of sin. And that's why I have an obligation now, a mitzvah, to do tshuva. So tshuva is a great concept, my friends. Tshuva is a great concept, and the truth is that that's why majority of the world is Beinonis, or want to be Beinonis, because we all have the capacity of sin. And therefore, it's so important to us, the capacity, the mitzvah of tshuva. Truth is, to us, this concept, we have a major theological problem. Look at the next text. Problem is as follows. Ein oid malvade. As a Jew, in text number 7, page 107, as a Jew, we all believe there's nothing besides God. Right? In Deuteronomy says, Ein oid malvade. Moshe Rabbeinu says there's nothing besides God. Rabbi said even witchcraft is not outside of God. Why is witchcraft called kishufim? It's an acronym from makishin pamalya shamayla, which means they diminish the heavenly entourage, indicating that their function contrary to the will of God. In essence, everything is part of God, whether it's good or bad. Some things reveal God, and some things are created to challenge God. Right? So in essence, this statement in the Gemara teaches us two things. Number one, there's nothing exists out of God, including good, bad, and the ugly. And secondly, that negativity diminishes God's vision in the world. It was created to challenge God's revelation in the world. Because God creates something in the world. God created everything in the world. Everything. How do you, when you say, when all of us say, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. That means God is one with everything. How is he one with something that reveals him, and he's one with something that diminishes him? How is that possible? This is a great question. This is the question, the $1 billion question. This is a great question. This is a very theological question. You can't have your cake and eat it. If God is one with everything, he's one with everything. And he's all not good. So how do you have both things? How do you have God is one with everything, and then God is in something that denies him? It doesn't make sense. Then it's not united with God. No, it's still united with God, but it denies him. It has the capability of denying him. You ready? That's a good question. But that's like the billion. That's not the million, that's the $6 million. Okay, so look at text number 8. Look at text number 8. This is deep thing. You have to read this a couple of times. Okay? So the Rebbe says, there are two ways of understanding God's unity. And this is the difference between a tzaddik and a regular person. Ready? One way is negativity and evil possess no contradiction to God's unity. In such, and it's not really an entity. It's an illusion. Rather, it's void of absence of something. We demonstrate this by associating with negativity in a manner of rejection. That is a tzaddik. Negativity is not there. I reject it. I don't believe in negativity. That's positively biased. There is no negativity. It's not true. Everything is good. Why? Because God is in everything. So everything is good. And then you have the second way of looking at it. Ready? This is what we need to know, because we're not the first way. We're the second way. Even though we need to have positively bias, and we need to learn how to be positive. and look at everything in positive. But really, the second way is important. The spark of godliness that animates negativity and evil is clearly also one with God. Despite the fact that so far it has been distanced from God, that is also presented as evil. How is this possible? The purpose of the negativity and evil represented by God's enemy and animating it is for it to be transformed. And that's the second way of looking at evil. Not in denial. I know because I feel it. I know it. But there's got to be a positive outcome. That's transformational. There's got to be a positive outcome. I got to find the light at the end of the tunnel. I got to find the goodness in this situation. I got to find what is the positive outcome from this situation.
They sound like the same thing.
They are the same thing. But one of them is looking
What's the
from above, and one of them, as the next statement is going to say, one of them is looking from above, and one of them is looking from below. They ultimately have the same outcome. One is the concept of where I'm going to transform the concept. The tzaddik doesn't have to transform anything because he's not involved. Tzaddik is not involved with it. Not involved.
Shoah resulted in Israel. Without the Shoah, the nations of the
Holocaust.
world would not have allowed us to establish Israel. I can take from it.
Oh, the show resulted in the Eibishter owes us big time, not Israel. The Eibishter owes us not only Israel. The Eibishter owes us big time, big revelations. Mashiach, that's the show's result. That is the result. Israel is a wonderful thing, it's a great thing, but it's not sponsors 6 million people being murdered and 1.5 million people.
We're the only people without a homestead in this.
And we still don't have a home. So we're still struggling with this home. So it's still not complete. It surely didn't help anti-Semitism. It still did not end Sodus for Yidden in the world. So that's a whole separate issue. I don't want to bring that in. So everybody says that, my grandparents were murdered in the Holocaust. It was not worth it. That there should be that. It's just not worth it. We need bigger than that. We need bigger than that. We need. I don't want to go into that issue. Okay, so it's not. We need Mashiach. That needs to be the response, and that transforms the world.
Absolutely.
Every person is a olam umloi. Every person is the whole world. This is 6 million worlds. So I need to find something really great come out of this. Much bigger. Much bigger. The purpose of negativity and evil represented by God's energy and humanity is for it to be transformed to good and uplifted to holiness. This is accomplished through tshuva. That's accomplished through our avodah, tshuva. The tzaddik doesn't do tshuva. Not involved in negativity. Tshuva for. He is not involved in negativity. He doesn't get involved in negativity. By him, negativity is a fake. It's not a real thing. It's a fake. It's an illusion. It's not reality. He only sees positivity. So why does he get involved in negativity? We do get involved in negativity, whether in thought, speech, and action. We do get involved in negativity. And why do we get involved in negativity? To be able to find in that negativity something positive. That's the only reason why God put us involved in negativity. There will be no other reason why God will get us involved in negativity if not for that. God doesn't need to prove that we would do negativity. He knows that we're going to do negativity. God doesn't need to show us that we're weak people. We're weak people. That's what God. Oh, I showed you. God says, so look at the Torah. I know that people are weak. Why would God does it so that we would actually show ourselves that we are not as weak as we think we are. That we actually can come out and prove that this negativity was a transforming situation. I'm on page number 108. So almost finished 108. Bottom of the paragraph of 108 is the second paragraph, right? This is accomplished through tshuva to the point where past transgressions are transformed into merits when God's energy is uplifted to holiness. Yeah. God, so in essence, you can say it like this. The Baal Tshuva is able to see the world as God does. I am everywhere. I am truly everywhere. I'm even in the Avodah Zarah, so to say. I am everywhere. The tzaddik cannot see God in the Avodah Zarah. He just cannot see it. He either needs to deny it or destroy it because he cannot see it. He cannot see the reality. He's in denial. He does not see, he sees the spiritual reality. He cannot see the physical reality. He doesn't see the negative. He cannot see the negative. The Eibishter, so he really cannot see God in negativity. We do see God in negativity. With me. Yeah. Deep stuff, baby. Deep stuff. Look at the next expression of the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitch Rebbe, on text number 9. He was a very deep thinking man. And let's see his deep thinking thought. Ready? Page 109. You have to also read this a couple of times. Are two perspectives of God's unity. One looking from bottom up, and the other looking from top to bottom. From bottom up, the bottom, after the universe was created, it was entirely insignificant before God, just as it was prior to creation. After all, even prior to creation, the concept of a universe exists, just not in reality. Now that the universe was indeed created, the truth remains that it's not real. Absolute substance. Rather, it's completely nullified in the presence of God. That is the truth. So what emerges from this perspective? It's impossible to, this is the tzaddik, it's impossible to imagine something outside of God. Is as it appears in the world closest to God, so how can there be anything separate from him? It's impossible. What is there to say? If there's something that appears outside of God, it must be rejected. You must reject it because it's not possible to be. Not only that, materialism in general must be rejected. It must break free from this world to truth. That's it. It's not impossible. There's a mother, the way God looks at it. See, the tzaddik doesn't look at it the way God looks at it. He rejects all materialism.
Food?
Yeah, there's no need for food. But I need to eat I need to keep this body, who's a rejected thing. That's what Hillel said. Hillel said, oh, you know what? I have a body, so I need to feed the body. So I'm going to go feed my body. But really, what do I need this whole thing? What do I need? I should really live a life without a body. It's wasting my time. Even as he lived in this world. If they lived a spiritual world, they put the body, they said the body is irrelevant. It's just there as a vehicle. That's it. It's a vehicle of the soul. But there's another perspective, looking from top down. There's absolute substance to the universe. That's reality. And it's godly substance. That's the kavanah. If you're right, the world is a reality. But now the reality is God. So a person can enjoy material things, but the pleasure should be a godly one. Try to find a godly pleasure in the pleasures of life. Pleasure, try to find godliness in pleasure. That's us. If we're going to deny pleasure, it's denying who we really are. We like pleasure. Try to connect it with God. Make a bracha. Use it out its energy for Kedusha. Do it in the right place. Do it in the right environment. Create the environment. So you make sure that you use the pleasure for the right way. So we can understand intellectually, after contemplating the concept of everything being godly entity, that while we experience pleasure from physical objects, since those objects are really godly entities at their core, that pleasure is something godly. So really, it's godly. But it's a concept of thinking about it. So that's what the sages asked, that a person should make a blessing before we eat, a pleasurable thing, to be able to realize it's not only for the pleasure of the body, it's also a godly pleasure. God created this beautiful fruit. God also wants pleasure from his creation. Pleasure. The person feels pleasure from the object. The object feels pleasure from the person, but it's spiritual, godly pleasure. That's not denying the world. That is using the world. Tzaddik denies the world. About tshuva, a regular person uses the world. Everything that God created in the world, created for his glory. That God created in the world. Don't deny anything in the world. I have to be careful with that because sometimes you got to be a tzaddik, okay? Don't try to find the pleasure in Avodah Zarah, God forbid, right? That's where you need to become a tzaddik, right? There's always, some things you need to go away from. Some things you need to go away from. But the majority of things in the world, especially physicality in the world, negativity, we learned in Tanya, like sadness, the Alter Rebbe says you got to get rid of. You got to be the tzaddik. You got to get rid of it. You got to say it has no existence.
And this has profit.
Okay, only if it's used for something. But sadness in itself has no profit, has no value. You got to get rid of it.
What do you mean?
Let's learn it in time. So ego, for example, needs to be developed because there's a positive in ego. The positive is kind of say ego is evil. You gotta bring humility. Figure out a way how to bring humility to it. You can't just deny it. No ego. It has no self. It's all about God. There's no self. We do have ego. Learn how you kind of say, okay, I don't have ego. Denial. You can't do that. It's unhealthy. So therefore, we need to be the Baal Tshuva. We need to be the one who transforms it. That's the story of the Torah. The Torah is in essence telling us the story of the golden calf. The Torah is telling us the story of these two bulls. A was given to God. Bull B was given to the idol, to the eagle, to the Baal, whatever, Asherah, right? Bull B says, is that fair? Is that fair? Is it fair on me to be given to an idol? That's the theological question. Is it fair on me to serve an idol? And what does Eliyahu Navi say? Yes, because something great is going to come out of this. Something powerful is going to come out of your dedication. Ultimately, it was not served in an idol, right? Because no fire came down. Nothing. Right?
So it proves Hashem's existence.
Right, it proves Hashem's existence. Right? If the fire would have come down for Elijah and the fire would have come down for Baal, we would have a problem. We'd have a different ending to the story. Okay? Ultimately, the bull was given over. The bull said, why am I given over? Forget about it. If I was served, then it would be a bigger problem. That he felt he could be served already was a negative for the bull. But what did Elijah say? No, what's gonna come out of you is even greater. That's gonna come out of me.
Then people had 150 had belief in Hashem.
Because now the Jews around them all believe in Hashem.
They all said they're okay. So we got it wrong.
That is the power of the second bull. So that's the power of the eagle. That was the power of the eagle. What was the power of the eagle that the Jewish people sinned? They got second luchas, they got a Beis Hamikdash, they got a greater revelation of God, a greater relationship with God. As we learn the Torah reading, Moshe Rabbeinu says we're going to create a greater relationship with God, even more than we had before the making of the golden calf. Because the Yidden did tshuva. They realized that they can use the negative into a positive. So they repeated, text number 10, they repeated the phrase to strengthen their faith and heart, and they said, repeated, the Lord is our God, the Lord is our God. What happened here? In 1 second, they went from worshiping, ready to be worshipped, to the next second, proclaiming God's. I mean, they always believed in God. They had this struggle. Like we all have this struggle. Well, they had a king who was pushing it. So I don't know if you want to call that forced. So through Elijah's work, text number 11, that completes the Sikha. Through Elijah's work and his action that brought the Jews to do tshuva. It's like the Moshe Rabbeinu, his job. The unity of God was manifested in this physical world, as the verse testifies that they declared the Lord is our God. According to the understanding, and even the negativity can be transformed. Now, from the godly perspective, the divine engine that animates everything is fully expressed and completely unobstructed. This then explains Elijah's statement. To the bull, right? To the bull. Elijah says to the bull, the Medrash, just as God's name we sanctified through the fellow bull, God's name was sanctified by you. God Elijah tells the bull, don't worry. Don't worry. You are going to do the exact same thing that my bull is going to do. They indeed achieved a similar thing. The same glorification of God's name that is achieved through the bull chosen by God to achieve through the bull is achieved through the bull chosen by the Baal. In such as through tshuva, the inner purpose of the bull is fulfilled and the bull is transformed to holiness. And that is the power of tshuva. That's the power, that's truly that the Gemara says is the power of the story of the golden calf. It brought about by them that the Jewish people saw that in their negativity, there is a positive, there's tshuva, there's a positive line to their own negative situation. As the Alter Rebbe in Tanya wants to teach us that there is a positive that you're not a tzaddik. Because you're not a tzaddik, you're on the default. Tzaddik is the big guy, and you are on the default. You're the second-class citizen. Actually, it's the opposite. Much greater citizen. Where a Baal Tshuva stands, even a tzaddik cannot stand. Actually, on a much higher level, because you see God in everything in the world. Well, a tzaddik doesn't have that avodah. So by him, he negates everything. The world is irrelevant to him. But you actually see God in the world. You actually bring about God in the world, which a tzaddik does not do. And that's the story of the golden calf. And that's the story, Mitch, when you'll hear the Haftarah this coming Shabbos, hopefully you'll say, wow, what a story. What a story of the Baal. What a story of Eliyahu Navi. What does it mean to me, this beautiful story? Very powerful sikh of the Rebbe, very deep. But that was the Rebbe, how the Rebbe looked at everything, that there's a lesson. The lesson is not a negative lesson. The lesson actually is a positive lesson to each and every one of us, that we are no better than the Jews in the desert. They might have had bigger challenges than we have, because there were much higher people that had much bigger challenges than our challenges. And they overcame their challenges and they saw the good and ultimately repented and brought about godliness in the world through their repentance. We surely can accomplish that. Wish you all a wonderful day. We'll see you, Mitchell, tonight. Continue the journey of learning. Tonight is another lesson, the third lesson in meditation from Sinai. You can come either on Zoom or over here, and we'll continue to learn together. I wish you all a wonderful, beautiful day. I invite you, all your questions, a lot of these questions could be answered, and you learn Tanya every morning at 8 o'clock. You might be learn Chassidus, and all these questions might be answered to the questions you have. Okay, this ends the class. Anybody has a question? Anybody wants? I know that somebody has a question. But let me get off of the Facebook.